A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Here's what's coming up on today's show. We were scheduled to have John Grant, CEO of the Celebration Bowl, but we will have to move him back. Something came up to next week, so he'll join us next week. What's trending on the Carlos Brown Show? Congratulations to Bethune-Cookman University, SWAC Baseball Tournament Champions. And we'll tell you a little bit more about Bethune-Cookman in the Tallahassee Regional. Southern University football academic success. We'll tell you about that. Coach Graves and staff and support staff, they've done a tremendous job, and we'll give you the latest information on that. Also, Southern University basketball recruiting success. We'll give you that information as well. And then last but not least, the NBA playoffs. A lot to talk about, plus some other tidbits on today's show. Now, as always, we'll introduce the panel. And they'll come in one by one. And let's see, Charles Edmond. Good morning, sir. Coach Pettaway. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
And Willa Brown, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's get right into it. Last Sunday, I happened to catch the last 4 innings of the 2025 SWAC Baseball Tournament Championship. And whoa, I watched Andy Martinez with a 3-run homer to win the game. Now, FAMU was leading 9-6 in about the 8th inning, but Bethune-Cookman University comes back from behind and walked it off with a home run. Our panel basically said, except Willer and me, I think we had FAMU winning it. But congratulations to Bethune-Cookman. Now in an elimination game today at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time against the number 2 seed, Northeastern University, and in the Tallahassee Regional. They lost 6-2 to Florida State, 2-hour weather delay. But at one point, the game was tied 2-2. Then Miles Bailey delivered a 2-run homer for Florida State. And then they added 2 more runs to win it 6-2. So an elimination game. But I must say, Bethune-Cookman, I thought, played up to their standards. They were in the game, and Florida State was just a better team. But, hey, Bethune-Cookman University, they did well. Penna, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it came down once again, Bethune-Cookman, the pitching. I thought they had the better pitching staff, and I think it showed. It kept them in the game until they were able to put it away. Bethune-Cookman has shown all year that they were a good baseball team by winning the regular season championship.
Yeah, and Charles, I think me and Willa picked FAMU. Am I right, Willa? Did you pick FAMU?
No, I picked FAMU to beat Grambling.
Okay.
But I picked Bethune to win it all.
Yeah. Well, I was in the minority there.
I ain't right often. So
hey, but for a moment, it looked pretty good for you.
But they rose to the occasion, and they got a lot to be proud of.
Yep.
Tremendous foundation upon which to build. There's no doubt about that. And I look forward to watching them moving forward. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, all the way around. And as well as FAM, and as well as some of the SWAC blue bloods bouncing back. So baseball moving forward in the SWAC is definitely going to be something to be excited about, because you got quite a few teams that can step in there and get after it. So it's going to be interesting moving forward.
Charles, Jackson State and Southern. I'm just going to say it. It's pressure on those two baseball programs. Historic, a lot of legacy. Let's see if they're going to bounce back. But your thoughts on Bethune-Cookman?
Well, they were the best team all year long. There's no question about Florida, but you got to give Florida A&M a lot of credit. After Bethune won that series with FAMU, FAMU bounced right back, and they were hot going down the stretch, and Bethune-Cookman had to close the deal to win the regular season. FAMU was playing Alcorn, and their athletic media relations director, Brian Harvey, was texting me like, man, what's the score? What's going on? Because Bethune-Cookman was playing Texas Southern that weekend. And so, it was a little bit of scoreboard watching, trying to figure out what was going on between FAMU, Alcorn, Bethune-Cookman, Texas Southern. But you got to give FAMU credit for putting the heat on Bethune-Cookman to force them to close the deal in the regular season to win it, and they did. FAMU swept Alcorn, of course, but Bethune-Cookman handled their business. Bethune was the best team all year long. I mean, I think there's no question about that in the regular season. Now, the pressure of the SWAC tournament's a whole nother animal. And, hey, how about the way that they won it? A walk-off 3-run home run to win it. But, all year long, they were the best team. They were the best team all year long. And I just go back to Coach Hernandez, going all the way back to COVID, in which he was building his program, and he was furloughed during COVID. Bethune-Cookman, there was no baseball, of course, for any of us, but he was furloughed, working for DHL, delivering packages. A lot of his players wanted to transfer because there was no baseball, and Coach Hernandez sent them wherever they wanted to go or helped them get there. And so with that, they had to kind of build it from the ground up after COVID. And you can tell year by year they were close. The bracket finals, they were close. But this year, they finally broke through. So congratulations to them. And look, they out-hit Florida State yesterday, 10-6. Their pitcher went 7 innings, struck out 7. I mean, so 6-2, you'll take that. You leave 8 runners on base, so you have opportunities. In the regionals, the margin of error is really small. You got to cash in on opportunities. They got enough pitching, I thought, but they just couldn't come through. They had 1 error. So, I mean, look, you got to give Florida State credit. Bethune hung in there, but they got Northeastern. Yesterday doesn't matter. You got to survive in advance to try to get another crack, perhaps, at Florida State.
Win and go home, and that's a great human interest story what Bethune-Cookman has done with that program.
Yes.
That's why I don't settle for anything less from Southern and Jackson State baseball. If this guy can do it and they build it back up, come on, Southern and Jackson State.
Well,
let's get it back going.
Well, you brought up a good point. So let's just look at SWAC baseball where it is right now. You got no doubt the top 4 teams in the league: Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Grambling, and Alabama State. There's no doubt about who the top 4 is. Who's number 5? Well, you could say UAPB. They make the tournament for the first time since 2019. Can you anoint them as the 5th best team? I'm not ready to go there yet. Coach Stout, the first year, much improved. We'll see what happens next year. But the big question I think you brought up is, for Alcorn, we just didn't have the pitching. We signed a ton of pitchers already. Hopefully we'll be better. What's going to happen with Valley? What's going to happen with Alabama A&M? We'll see. But clearly you brought it up. Jackson State, Southern University. What's going to happen with those 2 teams? And Texas Southern, for example, you can add them in there as well. I mean, they have struggled the last few years. TSU, Southern, Jackson, down the stretch and in the tournament. And so what's going to happen there? I mean, you brought it up, the text you got about Southern University with the struggles that they've had, no pitching coach and all of that. I know some people will probably say it's an excuse. Crenshaw is not going to bring it up. He's not going to throw his administration on the bus because of what he doesn't have. So we didn't know until you got that information. Omar Johnson, he's done a good job at Jackson State, new contract and all, but Jackson's expected to be better. Southern's expected to be better. Texas Southern is expected to be better. TSU seems to be down the stretch going into the tournament the last 3 or 4 years. I was talking with Mike Robb a couple of years ago when we played TSU to finish the season. And he was wondering what team's going to show up to go into the tournament to finish the season out. I mean, just showing up at the ballpark thinking that you're just going to be in the starting lineup and you're going to play and all that. And this team is struggling again, an early out. So I think for TSU, for Southern, for Grambling, what are those teams going to do? Because clearly you got the top 4. Who's going to elevate from the league, elevate from there to be near the top of the league? I think that's a big question.
Willa, is that legitimate? The point I brought up with Jackson State and Southern and Coach Pettaway, is that legitimate?
I mean, definitely. I think. I mean, you're talking about two programs who historically, budget wise, they're right up there, hovering around the upper echelon or in the upper third, so to speak. So the expectation would be that they would be in that upper third on a yearly basis, and when they're not there, there's some cause for concern. But I mean, Omar's an old head. It's going to take an act of Congress to get him out of there. I have no doubt that he will bounce back. There's no doubt about that. Crenshaw's status, I guess, is still up in the air. But I mean, Southern, like I said, is one of the blue bloods in terms of baseball in the SWAC, and no reason not to expect those teams to be hovering around the top. And when they're not there, folk want to know why.
Right. And Carlos, I just think it comes down to this. When the public or the fans see that or they think that you have everything that you need, their expectations are higher. On the outside looking in, people are saying, well, they got everything they need. They should be doing better. But, a lot of times you got to take a step back and just really look at it, because until we got that information about Southern not having a pitching coach, that kind of thing, all of that completely changed my view on that. We got to make sure that these programs have what they need, not taking for granted that they got it, because their overall athletic budget is toward the top in the SWAC. You don't know how that money is being distributed. Is it getting to all the grassroots programs? Is it getting to the programs that you expect to win? That's the thing that we have to add in. You got to add that piece in also when you look at that.
Yeah,
but fans want to hear that. Fans want to hear the coach whining and complaining about what he doesn't have. I mean, is that really a professional way of doing it? If you don't have a pitching coach, how many of our teams have a bona fide 100% dedicated pitching coach? All they do is work with pitchers.
And probably slim and none, Charles, no doubt. Probably slim and none. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought Crenshaw was a pitcher in college.
He was.
So I think he's got some knowledge of the techniques and the fundamentals necessary to play that particular position. So I mean, I don't know. I'm not a baseball guy, so while I would kind of surmise that it would be important, at the end of the day, I guess my question would be, like most fans, quote unquote, how important is it? I'm sure it's got some validity there. But like Coach Pettaway was saying, and using that as an example, if you got a coach that's getting everything that he needs, then you expect them to be up there. Right. And, if not, then, folk want to know, pretty much why, that sort of thing. And so, I don't know.
Well, I did go back and look at an article with Coach Crenshaw, and when he signed an extension, the statement said that they were investing in the baseball program. Now, that's a broad statement.
True.
But man, when I look at Bethune-Cookman and what they went through, and can I be honest, they probably don't have the budget and the resources that Southern University has, although some would say maybe needed more. I know in the article also they talked about, well, we had Rodney Kirshner on a couple of weeks ago, and he said they were trying to invest in building a batting cage. But I would say Bethune-Cookman has done a great job with less resources.
Location.
That's it right there. That's exactly what I was going to say, Coach Pettaway. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right. You got to look at this now. You look at the makeup of their roster. Look at the makeup of Bethune's roster. All those kids that they got from Florida. So being in state, number one, those kids have a better chance of getting enrolled at Bethune-Cookman. Number two, they're closer to home. Bethune-Cookman has a lot to offer to a kid from the state of Florida if they play baseball.
Mm-hmm. So they've been a winning program for a long time. They're just now getting into the SWAC. But you go back over their history in terms of the MEAC, that sort of thing, they've always been hovering around the top. So you're not talking about a program that has just experienced success for the first time. Mm-hmm. You talking about a baseball blue blood all the way around.
Well, I'm going to say this. Yeah, Edwin. Thank you. BCU is in a state full of really good players. Right. They have a bigger population, one, than Louisiana. And then two, Louisiana is not chopped liver with baseball players. I'm sorry. I mean, Louisiana and Southern University under Coach Kadar and Kerrick Jackson, it's not a Johnny-come-lately program. So down to me, I'm not advocating anybody losing their job. What I said last week, I still stand on it. It needs to be some serious evaluation. Now, is that part of the piece? That text message I got?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there are some great players in Louisiana. Florida just has more people and thus have more baseball players. But again, Louisiana's not chopped liver. Yeah. Not at all. Because you can look at the baseball programs in the state. Throw out LSU. Don't even talk about them. But like Nickel State usually has a great baseball program. Southeastern has made it to the NCAA tournament without winning their conference. Louisiana Tech. So we'll see what happens about this, but something has to be done. Now, is that where they will look at the overall baseball program, as they always do, and then they decided there needs to be more time given to Crenshaw? Hey, we'll see. But
it's definitely not acceptable in terms of the way it is
Southern
right
University.
Now. Yeah, it's definitely not acceptable the way it is right now, considering you got 4 top teams that I think aren't going anywhere. I mean, we just named those. Where is Southern going to get back into that middle tier, the upper thirds, as Wheeler Brown likes to say? Are they that far away? I mean, according to the article, Southern had the talent. The players said we had the pieces here, and I read that, and they had the pieces there to get it done. They just didn't. So now you got to look at that and say, okay, do you build on that? You had a bunch of seniors. You're going to retool. You're going to rebuild. You're going to need more pitching. All of that is going to be obviously worked on and discussed. But Southern's got to get back up there, because I don't think Bethune's going anywhere. FAMU's not going anywhere. Gramblin's not going anywhere. Alabama State, we haven't talked about them that much all year, but they're right in the mix. So where's Southern? Where's Jackson? Where's Texas Southern in that mix? We ain't talked about Texas Southern. Mike Robbs won championships at 2 different schools. Where's TSU in that? So I mean, I think there's some work to be done all corner. I'm not eliminating the Braves. Not a great year, not a lot of pitching. Hardy's got to build on that, and he will. So baseball's on the run. We can get up there and put ourselves in a position where we can all be in the conversation to be a better conference overall.
And going into one division now, Carlos, has taken away one accolade that a lot of these coaches could kind of utilize and lean on as a crutch. So I can't say I won the Eastern Division or I came in second in the East, that sort of thing. Now second in the East, maybe 4th or 5th overall.
Yep.
So, it's a whole different conversation now, in terms of baseball when you go to that single tier, so now, it's anybody's guess in terms of direction now.
Well, you brought it. I mean, I mentioned it to Dr. Cavill when he was on last week. I mean, yes, there were some teams that kind of hid behind the divisions. Yes, you're the second best team in the division, but now you're ranking them 1 through 8 So now, to me, you're getting a bigger picture, a more holistic picture of where you are in terms of the conference. Now, yes, you're not going to play everybody, but I think you still get enough of a sample size to determine where your program is in the pecking order in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and not just a 16 division. That was a point that I was making last week. And I think the coaches kind of like it, and I think you get a better feel in terms of where you are.
Well, it's not going nowhere anytime soon, correct? No,
right.
No division. Okay. Texas, a huge state population-wise, right? More than Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Florida, a bigger population. So based on some of you guys, unless I'm missing this, then potentially TSU, Prairie View, with a huge state population. Some of you brought up Hispanic population. Yeah, they have that as well. Then TSU, Prairie View, they should be running things. No.
At the end of the day, Carlos, you got to recruit them. You got to recruit them. You got to get them. You got to coach them up.
Yep.
So
wait a minute, what was the last thing you said? Coaching up.
You got to coach them up. Ain't no doubt.
Right.
So the fact that they're in an advantageous state, quote unquote, is just a piece of the puzzle, and probably a small piece when it's all said and done. But in order to make the cake, you got to put all the ingredients in. It ain't gonna rise without the yeast.
Well,
so
that's what
you got to find a way to get it done.
That's what I'm going to with Southern and Jackson State. That was the beginning of what I'm saying. They need to step it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, definitely, no doubt. But see, where Omar has an advantage, he got 4 years left on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. So he got a little cushion there. Crenshaw trying to get a new contract. So his margin for error right now is very slim. He's got to put a plan together and go in and see Coach Banks or whomever and put it all out there on the table. And Coach Banks got to feel comfortable that Crenshaw is going to be his guy moving forward.
You either you buy all in, or you don't.
That's it.
It's no in between.
That's it.
On that note, well, we're going to take a timeout. 11:24 Central Standard Time. It's getting warm.
in more ways than one.
On today's show. But when we come back, we'll talk about a Southern program that is doing well. AP-wise, we're just going to look into Southern University football. We have a graph for you. Coach Graves personally sent me that before after he posted it, the good news. And then also want to get into this basketball. Some of you Southern Knights alumni have said both coaches has been listening to the fan base. They've got some height. And the women have been doing an outstanding job recruiting, albeit a lot of them comes from within the SWAC. So those are topics coming up, and also the NBA playoffs. OKC. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm not going to take a shot at the Knicks because somebody may be watching and listening. and by the way, Charles, I gave him the message, and he just sent an emoji laughing.
Who's laughing now?
Yeah. Well, let me throw out this before the timeout. Who has the most pressure? And think about it. For Game 6, is it the Knicks or is it the Pacers? We'll be right back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time. so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
There's a shot to right. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food?
Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp,
tofu, and rasta pasta?
Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock.
In downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m.
Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock.
In downtown Atlanta.
For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992.
Or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com.
For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant.
Authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. As usual, during the break, I look in the chat room and it is hot and heavy. I expect that they have some that agree, some that disagree. They're also talking about the Hispanics and recruiting out of the state of Louisiana. And yes, you're right. Southern does recruit out of the state, but I still say there as a base, Louisiana is not a bad population for baseball players. And then some said, well, LSU and ULL gets the best of talent. Okay. That is nothing new because each of our SWAC schools in their state, they go up against, for instance, Alabama A&M, Coach Pettaway. Alabama, they get the pick of the litter, but that next level of players that you get, and you still have to coach them up and develop them. It's still not a bad place, and to get good talent. But as we leave from that part of the conversation, I'll state again: Southern and Jackson State, TSU, Charles has TSU. They all have shortcomings, but they still have to get better. They have to get back up to where they once were, and that's being competitive every year. And look, they're competitive now, but you know what I'm saying. You got the Blue Bloods, you've got other institutions that have invested in baseball. So if we had an early top four, way too early, Charles, I think you kind of put it out there. Bethune-Cookman, FAMU. Who's that? Alabama State, Grambling.
Yep.
And then there's the spot, 5 and 6. So hopefully things will get better. Now, moving along, Southern University has had some football success from the academic side, and the 2024-2025 academic year by the numbers. 10 players graduated spring 2025. 25 players, a cumulative GPA of 3.0. I always love the 3.0. I had a 3.01. Who cares? When I left from Southern University. Again, 42 players, grade point average 3.0 in the spring. Grade point average for the football team 3.05, and the academic progress rate score 948. And it's always pressure to do well and always stay above that minimal 930. So congratulations to the Southern University football team, and perhaps we should in the upcoming weeks highlight some of the other sports programs and their academic year. So thanks for
Carlos,
putting that up.
This is, to me now, I think this is very noteworthy because not only are you winning championships on the field, you're winning championships in the classroom too. When your team can put together those type of numbers, that's pretty good. So my hat's off to Coach Graves, his staff, and the players now, because the players have to buy in to what the coaches are putting out there. And so it's obvious they've bought in that they have to be a student first. I think it's my hat's off to Coach Graves and the job that he and his staff are doing. And then also I want to congratulate the players for buying in and understanding that they are students first. And they're doing it in the classroom and on the field. And I think that's a remarkable job. A lot of times we as coaches, we don't get enough credit for making sure that the kids are graduating and doing the things the proper way. That people just think, well, you're supposed to do that. No, the teachers are the ones that's supposed to be, the instructors are the ones that are supposed to be doing the academic side of it. But when you get a coach that's involved, that's developing a total player, then you get results like this. So my hat's off to Coach Graves and his staff.
And speaking of Coach Graves, he said, "Morning, Carlos. I am indeed watching." Yes. Yes, tell Charles I'm dialed in. Go New York, go New York, go. Orange and blue skies.
All right, Coach Graves.
Hey, I sent him a message back. I can't talk. Or Charles, both of our teams are at home. So, hey, and we'll talk more about the NBA playoffs, Indiana and New York.
Well, Carlos, can I quickly comment on what Coach Pettaway said about the whole this is the whole academic athletic apparatus.
Yes.
For you to have these men, and this is throughout the conference. I know we're talking about Southern University. I know other schools in the league have posted they're kind of a similar thing, but the student athletes have to do the work. But the coaches have to put the apparatus in place along with the advisors, along with the academic piece. It involves a whole team of folks behind the scenes that we don't see to make sure that these student athletes are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the classroom. And so it involves a whole bunch of people to come together. We don't talk about them. We don't see them. We don't know who they are. But I know at Alcorn, there are 5 or 6 people or more that I know that handles football and the other sports. So it is a great collaboration between academics and athletics to make that happen, to put those numbers up there. So student athletes do the work, they go to class, the teachers do what they're supposed to do, but there's a collaboration amongst a whole bunch of different units to make those numbers what they are.
I agree with what Charles and Coach Pettaway just said, no doubt about that. But I am one of those that believe that is part of the job of our coaches to ensure that our kids get it done in the classroom and ultimately work towards graduation, that sort of thing. But I'm one that acknowledges that it takes a lot in order to get those kinds of things done. It takes a lot to get buy-in from those kids, that sort of thing. And to me, that's the ultimate manner of respect, when those kids have bought in from an academic point of view. Everybody wants to play the game. They're going to play the game to the best of their ability because they see that quote unquote pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, hopefully, that sort of thing. So getting them ready to play football or what have you, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting them to buy in on life after football, to buy in on the fact that that ball is going to stop bouncing or it's going to go out of bounds at some point in time. And you're going to have something to, fall back on. And that education is priceless. But our coaches go into these living rooms, Carlos, and tell these parents that's the first thing come out of their mouth. I'm going to make sure your baby goes across the stage in 4 years, that sort of thing. And, they know those parents are gripping those very words. And, 4 years from now, they're looking for their baby to go across that stage. And if not, then they're going to be looking at the coach in terms of, coach, what happened? So, but it's great for Coach Graves and his staff. They've done an outstanding job all the way around. And bodes well for the future of Southern football.
Right, and see, Carlos, I had an opportunity to sit in on the sports awards for Alabama A&M, and to see the number of 4.0 athletes that they had was remarkable. I don't have I don't want to quote, but next week I'm going to have the actual numbers for them. Man, it was outstanding. I'm talking about 4.0 athletes, and I want to say it was a high number of people, along with, of course, your regular 3 point and above athletes. But I was more impressed with the number of athletes that competed last year, and then they had 4.0 GPAs. I think that's remarkable. That's a time, and it's I think Will and everybody said this, it's a collaboration because your academic people have to be involved in it. And then, Will, I was always like this. I didn't understand coaches that did not push for their kids to be academically sound, because you need that kid the next year. So why wouldn't you give that kid an opportunity to get their academics so you would have that kid around? I've always pushed that from day one. If you want to be a part of this program, we got to get it done on the academic side. And you're absolutely correct. When you go into that home and you talk to them parents, that's one of the first things that you bring up, that you will make sure that that kid graduates. My statement was always, as long as your kid is committed academically, I don't care how long it takes them to graduate, I'll be there for them to make sure that they're doing it. Because, Willa, I was graduating kids, I was giving kids extra money before before it was a normal thing to do. I would save money just to make sure that my kids that needed extra hours to get out, that they could get it. I did that budget-wise. Nobody had to tell me that, because I think that's to me, your integrity is everything. And when you go in there and tell them that you're going to do everything that you can to make sure that they graduate, then you should do that. The only thing I ask the kid to do, you make sure that you're committed to doing it. In other words, don't blow off my money. I'm giving you extra money to finish school. That's what you need to do. But so my hat's off to these coaches that are actually following through on it. They didn't have to bring the rules in to make that happen. Yeah, the APR, and in some cases, it's not fair to some of the HBCUs, the APR, because we don't have the staff for the number of athletes that are on our campuses. When you got over 300 or 400 athletes to have only 1 or 2 people on the academic side, that's a joke, man. That's a joke in helping these kids. So if we're serious about it, then we got to be about it, man. We got to provide the resources to make sure these kids can walk across that stage.
And I think the NCAA has gone the extra mile in terms of, providing little incentives, that sort of thing, grants and things of that nature, that our schools have taken advantage of in terms of hiring more staff, in terms of having dollars to go to summer school and, things of that nature. So, our schools have done a great job in terms of exploring the NCAA options in terms of getting those academic dollars. And it kind of shows overall in terms of HBCU academic progress.
Well, the one thing about it, Carlos, is that, during COVID, they stopped enforcing the APR postseason ban.
Mhm.
But I think starting with this last academic year, they're back on the enforcement. And already, unfortunately, one of our teams is not eligible for the postseason. So they're back on that enforcement. And I'm just wondering, and maybe Dr. Cavill or somebody can chime in, with the NCAA kind of being reformed a little bit based on what's going on. I wonder, are those grants still available? The $900,000 grant that Dr. Cable did when he was at Alcorn in Jackson State. I wonder, are those tools still available to help our schools get out of that APR hell that some of us are dealing with? I'm just wondering.
I believe that they are. I believe that they are, Charles. But at the same time, it's not something that you're going to be able to get like back to back and all that sort of thing and stuff. So, I mean, they like to spread that wealth around, so to speak. So, if I got a 3-year grant for $900,000, I can't go right back after that 3 years up and try to re-up for another $900,000. They're going to expect other schools that are also needy like that to go ahead and apply for those dollars, that sort of thing. And there's no shortage of schools that's trying to get that money. If anything, there's a shortage of dollars, so your presentation has got to be sparkling, that sort of thing. NCAA calls you in like once a year or maybe halfway through. You have to give a prolonged presentation. I was part of that presentation when I was at Coppin State, and again when I was at Jackson State. That sort of thing. So and at A&T. So it's a thing where they really scrutinize those things to make sure that you're not wasting that money, that you're putting it to good use, that sort of thing. So it makes a difference, no doubt.
Yeah. And Willie, the PWI has been doing it for years.
Been doing it for years.
Yeah. They accept those interns and they get that grant money, and they've been doing that for years, man. So we've been late to the party when it comes to that money that the NC2A offers.
Yep.
Well, I will go back in history. The commissioner, Dr. McClellan, when he was at Texas Southern, you remember Southern got into a lot of trouble with that issues. Now, if you just go look on their website, they invested in adding more personnel, qualified personnel. That's one thing. And
qualified.
Others that are in the conference, if there is a situation where you need some help, you can look, to Southern University. They went through it. Big time. And now they're out of it and they're continuing to be successful, but you're going to have to invest. And I know sometimes financially it's kind of not a lot of financial money available, but some kind of way you gotta invest. And Southern University did that. You can talk to the commissioner. Like I said, he was the AD at Texas Southern, and Southern University, actually some of the personnel flew into Houston to get some good advice from Dr. McClellan.
But it doesn't make a difference, Carlos, if you don't get buy-in from the university itself. That's where it all comes in, and that's where it pretty much all starts. So, while we would like to think that it's just an athletic type of thing, that sort of thing, it's not. It's a university-wide concerted effort. Everybody's got to be a part of that. And, to piggyback on what you were saying, I came into Jackson State when they were almost getting ready to get the death penalty. They were going to be the first HBCU to get the death penalty. And they had done some things to shore up things from an academic point of view, that sort of thing, and became a model program, NCAA-wise, for low-resource institutions. So I recall that vividly. So it's something to be aware of, no doubt.
Right, and kind of looking at the latest report, there are programs in the conference that are doing well. Some are not. Some need a little bit of help. So that the big thing from make an investment if you can. It will be a world of difference because again, Southern University was in a tough situation. Coach Banks and them, look, and the university. You're right to your point. All you have to do is have one of those episodes, and you'll change your thinking. You'll invest. You'll have the university in most cases, at least at Southern, like, hey, we don't want this to happen again. So,
Carlos, I was shaken up by that. That whole non-certification of trying to find the records. I mean, that made the news in Baton Rouge throughout the SWAC for a long time, and I was wondering, would Southern University get from up under that? Because it was over 100 athletes. It was crazy, and I'm like, how is Southern going to figure this out? And Roman Banks said, we will figure it out. They settled, and of course they invested. But no one wants to be in a situation where you have a postseason ban, where you can't go to the NCAA tournament, you can't even go to the SWAC tournament now. I mean, so no one wants to have that hanging over their head, because we all talk about the SWAC tournament now with social media and everything. That spotlight's brighter than ever. So you don't want to be in that situation. Unfortunately, there's a school in our conference that is, due to APR, in that situation, but you don't want to have that happen.
No. So if you need help, hey, there are institutions in the conference that's been through that situation. I'm sure they can, help others that need help. G Boom said, I don't understand how some of those PWIs not getting more APR trouble with the portal. Oh boy, that's a whole topic in itself about the portal. I have people asking me all the time, Southern got this person. What are they doing in transfer portal? And I just take it with a grain of salt, because you get good things from the portal, but you also have to be very careful. And, we've talked about that before. Right turn. Southern University women basketball. They've been recruiting their behinds off. Because I've been trying to get Coach Funchez and one of the assistants on the show. They're so busy. So we have that graph, and we talked about the young lady from Alabama State, but you got someone from Florida A&M that transferred in, UAPB. We had one of the young ladies from Cal State. What was it? San Diego, Santa Barbara. We had her on the show, and she came on, and so Coach Funchez and his staff are doing a great job. Mel, can we put that graphic up? There we go. And they say they're back to back. They're trying to run it back. And you see the tall, hey. Proof is going to be in Coach Pettaway. Yeah. But they brought in some talent. Now, some of our Southern Knights have been talking about, we need some bigs, both on the women and men's side. Well, you've got a 6'5" center from Alabama State, and then you have about 4 5'10". Coach Pettaway, didn't I ask you last week, 5'10" in height? That's equivalent to what now in basketball? Is that equivalent to 6 feet?
Right. See that in 5'10", back in the day, those were centers in women's basketball. Now you got guards that are 5'10" and 6 foot. So the game is evolving. Women are starting developing earlier on the court, and so you got a lot of bigs now that can handle the basketball. It's just going to the European model where they want everybody to be able to do everything on the floor. And I think it's spilling over to the women's game too. So when you see a 5'10" now, that could very well be a guard now. Whereas before, you were happy if you had a 5'10" post player. So they're growing bigger, taller rather, and so you're seeing taller, more women over 6 feet that are playing basketball, and we're getting more of them on the HBCU level. You know, you've always gotten them at the PWIs, and then and I'm gonna tell you a sport you really see them in. Have you seen the heights on some of these volleyball teams that are PWIs? That 6'5" is nothing for them. That's all they recruit. You know, they're outside and they're middle hitters. All of them are 6'5" and above. So women are growing taller. They're becoming more athletic, and we're now seeing that trend come over to HBCU women's basketball, and I love it.
Well, I got to ask a question. I detected some laughter there when I said back to back and champions. Not that it's not going to be any pressure, but it is.
Oh yeah.
It is. Whew. They said they want to run it back
I
to
got
back.
a question for you. If quickly, you know, I'm noticing, and just me with all the coaching movement in this conference, there's a lot of player movement, transfer portal within the conference. It seems like Coach Carey at Gramblin's getting some players from Florida A&M and all of that. Carlos, you referenced the kid from Alabama State. That's at Southern. Is this something that we're going to be seeing, you think, as coaches move and players are looking for opportunities within the conference? They see how strong our conference is.
See, back in the day, that was a no-no. You didn't let a kid transfer within the conference. You know, if they wanted to transfer, they had to go out of conference. But now times have changed, attitudes have changed.
They ain't got to sit out. They don't have to sit out now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, you know, there was a time when D2 was the recipient of all those D1 kids transferring because they could go down and play right away. You know, now you can go side to side and play right away. You can go in the same conference, go around the corner and play right away. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, the whole game has changed all the way around.
Right, because back in the day, Carlos, it was if you transferred within the SWAC, you had to sit out 2 years in basketball. Yep, you had to sit out 2 years.
I remember those days.
But man, when that portal came, all that stuff changed, man. And you're going to see more of that. And Charles, I really think kids are transferred within the conference more because they get a chance to go to these other places. They see the setups at these different schools, and they're saying like, well, you know what? I wouldn't mind being there. You know, because of what I see. You know, and I think, the mere fact that you don't have to sit out, I think it makes it easier for them. The portal really gives kids an out. I promise you all, they got to put some safeguards in place, man, because there are too many athletes that jump in that portal that end up with nowhere to go. They got a scholarship. They jeopardize the scholarship jumping in the portal, thinking that the grass is green on the other side. And when they get over there, there's no grass at all. Forget it being green. There's no doggone grass. It's nothing but dirt. So, I'm serious. You know, they just did a thing the other day about how many kids that are still left out there in basketball. They jumped in the portal and have nowhere to go. Now you're in summer school. Most schools are getting ready to come back in with summer school, and these kids have nowhere to go.
Well, make your decision wisely.
You got that right.
If you're a student athlete, you know, I know. I remember the old days when, look, a parent say, no, you're going to stay.
Right.
You're going to stay and finish out. Now, and a lot of times it's for playing time. And you must remember a lot of the FBS, particularly in football and basketball, they were not megastars, if I can use that term, at the college that they were at. And now they're coming down to get another opportunity to see if they can get their basketball stats and pedigree better. But the only question I have, Charles, the 6'5" young lady, I hope she stays in that post 80% of the time. Hell, 90% of the time, and not float out on the perimeter. Because man, Coach Pettaway, we've talked about it. The European style has hit college basketball. Where are the tough post players that play with their back to the basket? And you dump it in. If he can't score, he's a tremendous passer, or hopefully a good passer, and then pass it out. Wheeler's talked about inside out when he was coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And but that is not the case now. It's more of if I'm 6'8" and above, I play out on the perimeter. Now, they also play multiple positions. And we can also talk about Southern's men's basketball program. It seems like Coach Johnson likes those athletic wings, 6'6" to 6'8", that can play multiple positions, Coach Pettaway. Now, I do like that. But they've signed a 6'11" kid. And Alcorn's got a 7'2" center. Size. It seems like in this recruiting cycle, they're trying to kind of get those bigs.
Right. And then, while we're talking about the transfer within the conference, Charles, have you been keeping up with Bethune-Cookman?
Yes.
They got Rosen.
Yes.
They got Bradley.
Yes.
They got Jacoby Heady.
Got somebody from
Zion Harmon.
Got somebody from Southern. They got a starter from Southern. You're talking about Bethune-Cookman men's? Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you.
And that they got the kid Bradley from UAPB, who was one of the top scorers in the league.
Yes.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, I mean, once we got into the basketball, Reggie Theus is loading up.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a thing to watch. We talk about Bethune-Cookman baseball. We talk now. Reggie Theus has got something going there. They got a renovation project going, trying to raise money to renovate the Wood Gym. So they got a little forward momentum going there in athletics.
Right. So that portal, the transfer portal and transfer within the conference, within the SWAC, that's a big thing. Charles, did Destiny Brown, is she in the SWAC?
No, UNLV.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Destiny Brown is at UNLV. That was kind of my thinking too.
Yep.
And so we'll, and that's the tough part about it, and you just hate that because Destiny Brown carried us, you know, and it's just unfortunate that they did. Huh?
She'll play at UNLV. She'll play. She will play.
Yeah.
There's some.
You could say she's rolling the dice.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
And look, and Willa, she came up deuces too. Now she did well.
Yeah. Well, there are some people out there who believe that Destiny Brown probably will barely even scratch the surface at UNLV. I mean, those are some people that obviously they're disappointed that she left Alcorn. So, you have those folks out there, like she's not going to play at UNLV. She's probably the third center. I mean, you always have that going on when a player transfers, leaves your program, disappointed about it. I get it, Carlos. I get it.
But I think she'll play forward there. I think she'll be a power forward. I think they'll move her to the four. And not for me, talent-wise, she will play. Now, I don't know about the attitude and all that other stuff. But talent-wise, there's no way they're gonna keep that young lady on the bench.
Hey guys, can I go in the chat room? See what you think about this question. Dim Boy says, I wouldn't want to wait on the post and pray that a guard knows how to make a good entry pass if I could play facing the basket.
Point well taken.
Really, GM?
Everybody can't make that pass, Carlos.
Point well
Everybody
taken.
cannot pass to the post.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, by the time they get to us, number one, they haven't been taught to do it in high school or wherever they came from. And by the time they get to us, we try to teach them, but we don't have enough time to get them to get to the game to get it to the post. I have found, now I'm going to tell you something. In all my years of coaching, one of my post players is the one that corrected me. He said, Coach, you always trying to get them guards to pass the ball to us. He said a post player knows better how to pass to another post. And when I got to looking at that, he was right. I promise you that. So then I started creating offense with post-to-post passing. And it worked better because the guards don't know how to get that doggone angle down for that entry pass. Some of them now, your elite guards know how to do it. But everybody cannot make that entry pass to that post.
Well, them boys, I guess you like that European emphasis. You know, everybody's playing what, Coach?
5 out.
5 out. Oh, I was about to say 4 in one end. And I'm still for old school. Play inside out, and I would love because the way the philosophies are now. If you could get somebody in the post that demands attention, they would know how to react to it because it's all 5 out. Got to coordinate. You know, or 4 out and 1 in. I long for the days that it could kind of go back, have both equal inside and out.
Right.
But hey, I blame the NBA on that. I blame them when they went to that what's that guy was at Phoenix, the general manager that coached the Olympic team. Oh, his name's escaped me.
Dan Marley?
Oh no, not Dan
Marley.
No.
Now you said, say that again, Carlos.
He was the CEO of the Olympic team, and he was also somebody.
Jerry Colangelo?
Yeah. I blame him. Well, part of it him. That they went to this style. But boy, inside out. Give me a post player.
You know who they fought for today's game? Golden State. The Splash Brothers created this image that the only way you can score is to shoot the 3-point ball. Well. So now they got everybody on the perimeter trying to duplicate what Golden State did years ago. That's why you got more 5 out and 4 round 1. That's what you're trying to. That's the terminology we use. 4 round 1 when you just got that one post player that's moving from side to side, and you're trying to get the ball to him. But Carlos, I still think even in the NBA, teams that play inside out, they're the ones that have been the most successful. Now you look. Well, when we get to the NBA, I'm gonna tell you why OKC has been successful. When we get to the NBA, now I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
In the collegiate game, if you can get your post game going, it opens up other issues on the floor. It opens up the 3-point shot. It opens up driving lanes when you can play inside out. It's tougher to defend that way. But now everybody they dribble hand. I hate dribble handoff, man, because you're going in the circle. I don't want them. Get to the basket, man. Go north and south. I don't play east and west. Go north and south.
Hey, some people would even say they don't like that in football with the passes. Attack downfield. Last point. The MVP, SGA, perfect example. He's always attacking. And the mid-range game.
Yes, sir. That's why I said I was going when we get to the NBA, I got a few thoughts on that.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, NBA playoffs and some numbers. Wait a minute. Nah, Carlos. AAU adopted it, and players spend way more time with select ball than a school coach, and thus basic fundamentals like it used to be taught young and perfect in high school and college. Valid point.
Yep.
I've tried to put a show together with AAU basketball. I invited some high school coaches. They refused to do it.
Right.
They refuse to do it. So valid point, but I'm still I'm agreeing with Coach Pettaway and Wheeler. Inside out. That's what I like. So on that note, we'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, there'll be more of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, trying to get down. looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, Coach Vann Pettaway, A.D. Willa Brown, and Charles Edmond. Kind of go back in the chat room, and I love the conversation. Some good questions, good comments. Dem Boy says, I agree with Inside Out, but the game has evolved based on the player's skill. Inside Out is now dribble in and kick out and pass. What do you think about that one, Coach Pettaway? Based on the player's skill.
Right, that is true. And what he's saying about the inside out, what they're saying, if you can get in the paint on the drive, you're still creating a 2-on-1 somewhere. So when they collapse, then you can pick it, you can kick it out. So that's still inside out. That means everything's not on the perimeter. You're not staying on the perimeter just jacking up shots. And
perceived skill, Carlos. Perceived skill.
Right.
Perceived skill.
Yeah, you got teams that are doing dribble DHO, and all the players can't dribble. Everybody, in order for that offense to work, you got to have people that can put the ball on the floor. And you got coaches that are running that. They're running a system instead of adjusting to what personnel they have and their talent level, their skill level. Yep.
Well, skills are questionable in part on some of the players dribbling, but I stated again, that's just if I were coaching, you make some adaptations, but my base and my foundation will be inside out.
And Colin, can I mention this too? You know, you came in with the Southern Show and the Southern Band. For your listeners, NBC is running a thing today on the battle of the HBCU bands, and it's on NBC. Yeah, in fact, I've got it taping because I knew we would be on the show. But this is I think that's remarkable for NBC to be talking about our HBCU bands.
That is good because as you saw the clip coming in, it's just outstanding.
Right.
It's outstanding.
And because they're a part of athletics. They are a part of what we do in athletics, because I still say that our band helped create the atmosphere that made Elmore tough to come in and play. They helped create that atmosphere.
As the song say, "We Are One" by Frankie Beverly Mays. And that's the way it is.
Yep.
If you're just tuning on, Bethune-Cookman, 2025 SWAC Baseball Tournament Champions. They were selected to go to the Tallahassee region, lost to Florida State 6-2. That elimination game with Northeast should be on right now. I thought I read 12 Eastern Standard Time, so maybe we'll get a report on that. But congratulations to Bethune-Cookman, 2025 SWAC Baseball Tournament Champions. Now to the NBA playoffs. Of course, OKC, Western Conference champs, 4-1 over Minnesota. Now, I kind of was looking at some of the national shows and the prognosticators. There seems to be a lot of criticism going, Coach Pettaway, to the Ant-Man.
Right. Well, they don't like his comments, about losing. Mm-hmm. They don't think he's looking at it the right way. But that's just their opinion. That's just the way he is. That's the way he's built, man. He came into the league with that same attitude. So they got to either get adjusted to it. But what I would like to see him, I would like to see him more aggressive. I think in that last game he was too passive, saying that he's getting his teammates involved, that kind of thing. But if he's the leader of that team, I would want my leader to go ahead and attack. Be aggressive. How did we get here? We got here on your shoulders. Let's go. Let's go to work. Let's be aggressive. Let's go down swinging. I don't think they went down swinging.
Oh, they got plummeted. And OKC, we've talked about the defensive numbers. They are a defensive juggernaut. And he could have been more aggressive. I still think the outcome would have been the same. But, yeah. But
it'd have been a better showing for his team. Now, when you start talking about OKC, you mentioned their defense. That, to me, that's the reason why they've been so successful. Now, number one defense in the NBA, and they're showing it now. They showed it in that series because, man, they get in the passing lane. See, this is what a lot of people don't understand. You don't have to always steal the ball. Your deflections messes up the timing on the opponent's offense. So if you can just get in the passing lane, you disrupt their offense. Now that puts the ball in the wrong person's hand with a late clock. Everybody's not going to beat you on a late clock. And I think that's part of what OKC has done on the defensive side. Then when it comes to offense, they play inside out because they get into the basket. Then you got Gildress. He's got the best mid-range game in the NBA. He's not going to sit out there and keep clanking up threes. He's going to get to the basket. He's either going in for a layup or he's going to pull up on you. He's perfected that part of his game. And then they play as a team. They got role players. If from the first game to the last game, every time they do an interview, what do you see? A team concept. Everybody's in on that interview. Yeah, only one person talking, but the rest of them are there because they believe in doing everything together. And that's what you see in championship teams. You see that togetherness, and that's what OKC is displaying because defensively, they can come back from any kind of deficit because they believe in defense. They believe in sharing the basketball, and that's why they where they are right now. Now,
they have a deep bench.
Yes. Yeah, they play a lot of people. They play a lot of people, Southern Knights. They play a lot of people. They play a lot of people. Yeah, they play a lot of people. Yeah. but and then in the East, New York, they up and down. They made a mistake by losing those first two games at home. Now, you asked early in the show who has the most pressure today? Indiana. Because if Indiana does not win that game, they're not going to win in New York. They would not win a 7th game in New York.
Charles. Charles is looking.
Their chance of getting to the finals is today. They let New York come in there and win that game. They are not gonna get out of that guard.
Well, they won 2 games, Charles.
I know.
But this is literally game 7 for Indiana tonight.
Correct.
I'm not gonna go there. I was thinking about it within the last 10 or 15 minutes. You know, I'm gonna make a comparison here, and it's probably gonna be a reach.
Go ahead.
Playing New York Knicks in the Garden to me is like playing for Southern University. And let me explain.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain. When you're playing, now we talked about this on this show before. When you're playing at Mumford, when you're playing at Heinz Field, when you're playing at the Felton G. Clark Assembly Center, and we talked about it on this show before, there's pressure, right?
Yeah.
But when you're playing at the Garden, and this has been talked about, when you're playing at the Garden, you got the celebrities, you got Ben Stiller, you got Spike Lee. The Knicks have a losing playoff record at home.
Right.
All right. So to me, the pressure is on Indiana to close it out. But if it's a game 7 with all the stars at the Garden come whatever, it's on Monday, there's going to be pressure on the Knicks because that's the number 1 media market. All the media people, all the stars, all the celebrities. It's different from LA where it's a little more laid back. But the Knicks hadn't won a championship in forever. So, yeah, there's pressure on Indiana to close it out tonight. But I think if it's a game 7, I think it's going to be pressure on the Knicks to close it out with all of that at home, the world's most famous arena in game 7, if it gets to that. The Pacers got to close it out, but I do think the Knicks are going to be under pressure to win game 7.
Now, Charles, I agree with you. The question was, who had the most pressure today?
Today it's Indiana.
Indiana, yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Today it's Indiana.
Then it will shift to New York on a game 7 playing at home because they have not played well in the Garden.
Yeah.
But today, the pressure is on the Pacers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the Pacers are just like OKC is better than Minnesota, and the whole Ant thing is either face of the league and all of that intertwined into that. But I think Indiana's a better team than New York. The Knicks got off the mat the other night. But I think Indiana, with that crowd, I think it's under pressure for them to close it out, and I think they will at home against the Knicks.
Now, Charles, you said something close. That's a perfect segue into, well, you said Indiana's a better team, but this series has been close. Knicks 115.8. Pacers 117.4 in scoring. Field goal percentage. Knicks 48.6. Indiana 48.8. That's close. Look at the coordination there. And rebounds 42.6 for the Knicks, 41.8 for the Pacers. So they're the better team, but I don't think it's a big gap.
Right.
It's been close. And I will put it on the magical board. TEMPO. Tempo.
Yep.
I think that's going to be important. They tend to, the last game, the Knicks slowed them down. It reminded me of the Lakers and the Celtics back in the 80s and 90s. One team likes to get up and down the court. One likes to play half court. Also, what about Halliburton? A perfect game. 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds, and no turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
But he turned the ball over last game. This was in the earlier game. Still, with all of that being said, Coach Pettaway, Wheeler, Charles, who you got winning today?
Well, I still think the Knicks are going to go in there and win because they play well. They play better on the road. I think they'll win today to take it back to the Garden. I'm pulling for them to win. But now I'm going to be honest. Now, I don't care who wins this series. I still think nobody's going to be OKC.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Pressure, Wheeler.
I think Indiana closes out today. But if not, and it goes back to New York for Game 7, it's going to be all New York.
Yep.
And Charles made the correlation about, I guess,
Southern.
Southern and all the stars and all of the home crowd and it's pressure. Coach Graves says, "Go New York, go New York, go." Well, Coach Graves, I'm sorry, but I think because it's Indiana's 7th game, although technically it's 6, I think they're going to get it done. And as the panel said, if it goes to New York City, although they have a losing record in the postseason, I think it'll be tough. And also in this series, there's been a lot of criticism saying that Thibodeau's been out-coached. I don't necessarily agree with that, but what are your thoughts, Coach Pettaway? Because Thibodeau, and I think Kenny Smith made the comment that even in baseball, was it baseball?
Yeah.
He won't play extra.
No, he won't play 9. He won't play 9 people in a baseball game.
And so I think he kind of got away from that a little bit in the last couple of games. But also, talk is who's the most important. You know, I said last week they run a lot of ISO with Bronson.
Bronson, right.
But some of the national prognosticators say that the big cat is the difference. But he makes silly fouls on the defensive ends.
Right. And he admitted that, Charles got him in that interview, and he asked him, man, why do you make all these silly fouls when you know you need to be on the floor? But I think one of the telltale stats that's out there, look at how they score more when Bronson's on the bench, whether it's in foul trouble. When he goes out in foul trouble, they take off, man, because they're sharing the basketball.
Yeah, the movement of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Right. They move the ball more and better because he's not on the floor. And so what Tibbs needs to do, he needs to rely on that bench more, which is the thing that he's getting killed for because he's not relying on his bench enough. And now his starters on the floor late in the game, they're tired. They're worn down. They're worn down because of the way the pacers get up and down the floor. The tempo of the game is so high that his guys are gassed at the end of the game. They're making mistakes, turning the ball over, and their shots are short because they don't have any legs, man. So if he plays his bench, if they're going to win tonight, he's got to play his bench. He's got to give those guys some rest so that they can have everything that they need down the stretch. And Lord have mercy, when he put Robinson in the starting lineup, man, that's their Energizer bunny. He was their energy guy, and now he's in the starting lineup. So they've got to make sure that they utilize that bench.
And to your point, yeah, a lot of energy. And how many second shots have the Knicks gotten in this series? But they hadn't always capitalized on it, though. Dr. Carey says sometimes it's just another team's time based on their roster. And if you kind of can look forward, I think New York will be more in the discussion for next season as well. Now, teams in the playoffs have some management to do as far as with salaries, who's coming back. One of the talks was with Boston with a new owner. They're going to have to split up between both of them, making about $600 million.
Right.
Tatum and Brown.
Yep.
And I'd love to have that guard, which I still think. I thought not the Lakers, the Heat were going to get him, but seems like nobody wants to give
Holloway. Holloway. Yeah.
He may be gone. They say they keep Derek White. So as for the Heat, I'll be on the hotline with Pat Riley. Willa and Coach Pettaway, he'd be a perfect fit for the Miami Heat. But I digress. Go ahead.
Well, I just think in the NBA, the salary caps causes teams to break up. because you can't afford to keep the same roster year after year, and it's because of the salary cap. That's why you don't see more dynasties, because when they get a good group of people together, after so many years, they become salary cap casualties. You cannot afford to keep them together. That's what's going to tear up the Boston team. Even though Tatum has his injury, even if he gets back, the salary cap will not allow that roster to stay together.
Well,
they're spending too much money.
To that point, then I love what OKC did. They've back in the finals since 2012. But boy, their general manager and basketball operations, they've got a lot of picks. They rebuilt that team. They tore it down and built it back up. Pat Riley, that's an example. That's an example. But Pat wants to win right now. But I love what OKC did. They built that, and so the question is, they were talking, is this the closest? Now, what you said is true, Coach Pettaway. Are OKC the closest to being a dynasty? Not in a traditional sense, 7-8 years, but in 3 or 4 years. I still can see OKC with a lot of draft picks that will favor them to be in the discussion, the conversation.
I think they'll be in the discussion, but they got to win the first one now. They haven't won one yet. They're just the best team that was in the NBA this year. All right, now they need to cap it all by winning the championship. Then we can start looking at that roster. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they can keep their roster intact. If that roster can return, that means theoretically they should be right back in the mix again next year.
26 years old of age, the average age on that team.
Right. They got a great team. They play a lot of people. The guys are hungry because of the youth. They share the basketball. They seem to get along well off the court, and that's half of the battle right there, man. If they like each other, if they like playing with each other, it really helps. Any team where you got the players loving on each other, you're in good shape, man. You're in good shape as a coach.
Well, the famous EA says, not really, coach, ask star players to give hometown discounts to stay together. It has been done.
Yep.
It has been done.
Yep.
LeBron James did it.
Right.
And other examples.
They say Bronson did it. Bronson helped New York by not taking the max contract. That's why they were able to add some pieces, because he did not go out and get the contract.
Well, Brian Fulford, another good comment. Pacers don't have one top 5 draft pick on the roster, built with good drafting, trades, and coaching.
Yep.
Now, can I plug my team in again? They were known for doing that. Look how many they had on their rosters that wasn't even drafted. But they got a great program where they select certain type of basketball players and they develop them.
Yep.
Get on your job, Pat Riley.
Well, Carlos, when you look at this roster, Alexander, I read an article the other day, just the chain of how they were able to get Alexander and how the trades that they made going way back, the Kevin Durant's and the James Hardens. I mean, just think how far back they had to make these trades happen to free up money. And of course, they were not very good where they had the draft picks to be able to add up, but that to get Alexander, that went back 7-8 years, several years, in order for them to get to where they are. So they got a lot of draft capital. If they win it all, I mean, they're young, but the NBA now is set up where can you keep teams like this together and pay? Because Alexander's going to get a 4-year, $300 million contract. He's going to get that. He's got the max, all NBA, all that. Financially, this is like with the Celtics. Financially, can you afford to keep a team like this together for the next 3 or 4 years? Maybe do, yeah, but at some point, can teams stay together financially? I think that's one of the questions.
Well, with their draft picks and the way that they've done it, I think they got a good chance of doing it. Will they have to split up a team a little bit? Maybe so. But the base is there. But Boston Celtics, wow. They're new owners coming in, if he hasn't come in already. That's going to be a huge difference. And how will the East be going forward? Cleveland had the best record, got bounced. Milwaukee, what are they going to do? So I think the Knicks, Celtics, and Indiana, they're going to be heard from, particularly Indiana. You know, the way what Brian just said, that's great building, team building. And it also asks this. You remember the big three? Not one, not two, not three, but championships. We probably won't. Do you think we will see that kind of team concept?
No.
In the future?
No.
I don't think you have three players that are willing to make that sacrifice financially again. You know, with LeBron having what he had, he was able to say, hey, I don't need a max contract. So by him leaving money on the table, that's how they were able to get Bosh in there. And so you're not going to have – there's not another player out there that I think will go to that extreme. You know, like I said earlier, Bronson did it by not taking a max contract so that the Knicks would have more money, and that's how they were able to help build their roster. But with the way rosters are constructed now, man, and the egos of these players, you're not going to have very many people making those kind of sacrifices right now.
But another team, Carlos, to think about is the Philadelphia 76ers. They probably have a 2-year window with Embiid and Maxey, Paul George, to keep that band together. In 2 years, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. Or is Embiid going to take a little less? You know, he's banged up. He can't stay healthy. Is Maxey going to take a little less to help improve that roster? I think they got a 2-year window. So I think the way the NBA, these salaries and this apron, you only can keep a team together for so long, for a couple of years, and then you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Now, OKC never was in the luxury tax from what I read. They don't have to deal with the apron, so they've got cash to be able to do that. But you're going to pay a guy $300 million over 4 years. That changes things. So, you know, for Philadelphia, what are they going to do? I mean, because they were one of the top teams in the East. I don't think they are now. Embiid's not healthy. You know, we'll see. But with the NBA, with the new apron, with the new system, can you afford to keep these guys together for a 3 or 4 year period? Like Boston. I mean, we never talked about breaking up this core that much until Tatum went down. And now all of a sudden, you know, is old man Horford going to take less? You know, is Porzingis going to take less to keep the band together? So, I mean, that's a question. You're going to have 7 different champions in 7 years. I mean, is that the parity that we've been talking about?
Right. And see, Charles, if I was at Philadelphia, first of all, I would not offer a long-term or a big contract to Embiid. You can't stay healthy enough. He would not get it from me now. There's no way I would give him a big contract because he has proven that he can't stay on the floor. And see, I think that the injury, when you talk about Boston, the reason why you're talking about breaking the team up now, I mean, there was always talk about breaking it up, but it's even more so now because now they know that they're not going to have Tatum at the beginning of the year, and they got to try to get somebody in there to help them. And because of the salary cap, that makes it very difficult.
Yeah,
it makes it very difficult. It limits who they can go after because of the amount of money that they're already giving out.
And also, Charles talking about the apron, there are teams now in the second apron, which means they 2 times in the luxury tax. And those teams that are in there, they're basically winning. Will, is that your mic? I hear somebody win or something.
That's the win.
Oh my. Must be windy in Baltimore.
That tornado watch last night.
Oh my. Oh boy. Oh yeah. I understand. But the luxury tax, teams are willing to stay in there if they're winning. But as Charles said, at some point though, you have to make a decision. I think the decision may be easier, maybe harder, depends on if you're you're winning championships. So
Well,
Boston
several
can't
years
say
ago, Golden State, we thought with Curry, with the Splash Brothers and Draymond and all that, we thought that Golden State was going to be the golden standard, spending a ton of money on those guys, and you thought that they would be championships galore. But we see that when that doesn't happen, would Latham and that group continue to spend in the third apron, whatever apron, to keep that team together if they were winning championships? But does it really get to a point now where it doesn't really matter if you win a championship or not? Because if you're spending $600 million to keep a roster together, you want a championship. If you're an owner, do you really want to spend that type of money long term, and even more so, even though you've won a championship, just from the financial piece? Forget the basketball piece. If you're just a rich guy and
he's making money,
making money, are you willing to?
The owner's making money. If they're paying out them type of salaries, and don't forget the television contract. Whoa.
Yeah,
that puts a lot of monies in the coffers. But I'm not feeling sorry for the owners. Hell, they're rich. If they paying out these salaries, just my thought.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling sorry for them. Like, oh boy, now a new owner comes in, I can understand that. He wants to get a bang for his money. But I bet you, Coach Pettaway, he changes quickly if he's able to get a championship.
Right.
Reverend Ike said it's the lack of money is the root of all evil. I know the good book says differently, but go ahead.
Well, the reason why I bring that up, because I go back to this is kind of an old example. Remember when the Mavericks won the championship? I think they beat your Heat that year. Steve Nash,
you would remember that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Steve Nash was on the team, and everyone thought the Mavericks would be in a good position. And what did Mark Cuban do? He jettisoned Steve Nash. Steve Nash was due for a big payday. So I'm just wondering. I mean, that's been a long time ago, but it's just something that I've thought about, where the Celtics, they're poised. I mean, if Tatum doesn't go down, who knows where the Celtics are right now? Maybe back to back, maybe not. Who knows? But the amount of money that you're spending, and even though you got new ownership, the pressure is on to stay within the apron. But if you got a championship roster, is the championship and the money, does it really matter if you've got it like that?
Well, Coach Pettaway, I think in that example you gave with Dallas, hey, they won a title, and it was like, that's what I wanted. Yep. Goodbye. So we start using surgical equipment, but some use the scalpel. But they are not hurting for money. I'm talking about the NBA now. They have 41 home games, 41 away games, and then remember there was some talk about, man, we need to cut some of these games down to 70. The owner's like, hell no. We're not going to do that. I need that.
Too much money lost.
Right, and we look at baseball. They have 80 home games and 80 away.
Yeah.
And then football, you see what it is.
Yeah, but see that in professional sports, the salary cap is what determines whether or not a team can remain consistent. Because you think about it, even in pro football, when you come up with a good team, what breaks up the team most of the time? Salaries.
Yep.
It's salaries.
And if I'm not mistaken, Coach Pettaway, in football, unlike basketball, what I want to say, the football, when they sign contracts, especially like when they're a rookie, come in, it's not guaranteed. But in basketball, it's guaranteed. Then the next contract is the one where they really, if they've played well, then they can get that bigger contract. So,
playing under rookie contracts helps everybody in every sport. But once you, especially in basketball, when you get through with that rookie contract, that next contract, it goes up. And then just like what Charles said, if you make all NBA and all that, now you're in line for the max on your next contract. And that's what throw them salaries way out of line, man.
And that's why
go ahead.
That's why the NFL players, they like to get that bonus because it's not guaranteed. Now, this guy played for the Lakers, not picking Charles. He played with Magic. He ended up being a coach. He said he wished basketball was like in the NFL. The rookie contracts shouldn't be guaranteed. But in the NBA, they said they have a scale for the rookies.
Yeah.
Anybody know who that player is? He was a 6'4" guard.
Byron Scott.
Byron Scott?
Yes. And if I had a fly swat, I would have swatted his hand on that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but ultimately, TV contracts influence a lot. In the NBA, the rookies are guaranteed a contract. In NFL, it's not. I guess it's like an at-will employee almost.
Yeah.
We know about that on the college scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I did get an update. Northeast was beating Bethune-Cookman at the time 1-0.
Well, the NFL, the hard cap, you by the new league year, you got to get underneath the cap. So if you're over the cap, you're going to have to dump salary somewhere. You're going to have to let players go. And so the NFL kind of has it right in terms of what to make it as equal as possible. For every team. I read an article. The NFL would love to have every team be 9-8 and just figure out the tiebreakers because it makes it so exciting. That's the way the NFL wants it. They want every team to be 9-8. Every team to be 9, and that drives people crazy. But in the NBA, you got so many guys making so much money, and the luxury tax apron. What is the difference, by the way, Coach Pettaway? We heard the luxury tax forever. Now it's this apron. Is it the same? Is it different? It's just a new terminology for the luxury tax. I don't get the apron system.
Right. Well, I don't either, man. That the way they structure them salaries and how much you can spend. That's why they had to have a whole team to figure that mess out, man. So I'm not gonna figure it out. They had to have a whole. I'm serious. They had to have an entire unit. In their organization to figure out that salary cap, man. How to get players in and out. Yep.
Well, if you get to the second apron, the second luxury tax, then you get taxed. That's what it is. You get taxed with the first apron, the second apron. And again, some teams are in that phase right now. Now, my team is trying to get, I think right now they're under the first. They're under tax. So they were at the first apron. And so that's money coming out their organization. But when you look at the NBA and the NFL, back to what you said, by the show of hands in the chat room, if every team was 9-8, how many would leave NFL football? Watching.
What?
No, I said if Charles was saying he read. They would like to have every team 9-8, and I said, who would stop watching football by show of hands in the chat?
Oh, I would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I would love.
Me either. I'll be definitely keep watching.
Wait a minute. Who's your team? The Rams? Yeah, they're on the upswing. Baltimore. Will they get to the Super Bowl finally? We'll see.
The NFL is no different than any other sport. Behind the scenes, the commissioners might not say it. They love drama too. They love the drama generates ratings. Just like Joe Burrow was complaining. Why is it that we got to play at Baltimore in prime time? Every year we're playing Baltimore at Baltimore in prime time. Why doesn't Baltimore come to Cincinnati in prime time? So he said that this last week. That kind of drama is what keeps us watching, and we love football anyway. So if every team in the NFL was 9-8, that means every game is critical. That means that sorting out the tiebreakers, the point spreads, wins in the division, all of that stuff. They're not going to stop watching that. That just adds to the drama and the intrigue of it all.
I'm more interested in not the drama, but the expertise on the field. Can Buffalo finally win and get to the Super Bowl? They can't get by KC. That's not really drama. That's facts. The Saints, the biggest complaint I hear is the GM should be gone. It starts from the top. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So there are some cases of dramas. Let's take a quick timeout, and we'll come back. That'll be the last time out of today's show, and we'll come back and recap. I'll check. Anybody has a score?
Yeah, it's Bethune still 1-0, top of the third with 2 outs. Northeastern still leading.
Go Wildcats, go! Go Wildcats! And you know what? They're not getting blown out, even in the loss.
Right.
Yesterday, they're playing well, and we threw it out there. Whether you're the too early time 4 top baseball teams in the SWAC for next year, I think it's a pretty easy case. And we also talked about Southern and Jackson State. Got to put a little more coals in the barbecue pit. Got to get it. Got to get it moving. Got to get it moving. And then throw in Texas Southern. But I saw in the chat room, Dr. Cavill said they have facility issues. You know, I've heard people and Coach Cato talk about McGregor Park. That is what's the word I'm looking for? That is a special place. Balls seem to fly out of there. Figure that out during the timeout.
But you aren't going to have to worry about McGregor Park after a couple of years. They are building a new softball and a baseball complex at Texas Southern. So once that's built, you don't have to worry about that one anymore.
Well, that's one example of, hey, they still got to get it done. And again, BCU, what you said, Charles, it really sunk into me. What they've gone through, and they've done it.
Yeah.
They've done it. So if they can do it.
Free Crenshaw.
Here we go. See,
but no, seriously, though, I mean, but Bethune-Cookman, they were a baseball stalwart when they were in the MEAC. Remember the coaches?
They were, definitely.
Merville,
Them and FAMU.
I think they won 11 or 12 championships in the MEAC. So they have been a baseball stalwart in the HBCU legend.
They're not chopped liver. Yeah.
No, they are not. So, I mean, to see him do what he did, to see what Bethune did, what they did, I mean, it's good for Bethune, but it's good for the conference that adds another team to the mix. You want it to be competitive from top to bottom, but I think we're more frustrated. I think, Carlos, you're frustrated. Jaguar Nation frustrated that Southern was at one point in time up there in that conversation, upper echelons, upper thirds. But where are they now? You know, Brian Fulford talks about Valley. They got a second-year coach, and they've got some work to do. I mean, you can add Alcorn into that too now. I mean, our last championship was in 2011, and we've gone through I think 4 coaches since then. So we got to get off the horse too. So I'm not taking Alcorn off the board here, but baseball can be competitive. We just got to get it going. We got to get with it. A&M's got to get with it. Alcorn, of course. Valley, got to get with it. So I think if we do that, I think it'll be a lot more of a robust conversation.
Well, skip the timeout.
Yep.
We're not going to do it because it's 12:50, but I will say this. When you have a legacy and, an empire, that might not be a good choice of words.
A what?
Then empire, a legacy.
Oh, empire. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear
and they have that established.
Yeah.
One of my ex-bosses said, I'm a millionaire. It was easy to be a millionaire, but boy, it's tougher to keep it.
Yes.
and that's kind of what, with Southern. And by the way, Coach Cato did a great job, and everybody on the broadcast on the SWAC Digital Baseball Network, and the stories he was able to tell. But I also noticed that he had to, when talking about Southern, you kind of got to be in a sweet spot,
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to come across and say, well, I did it, and it's a different time. But he did do it.
Yeah.
He did. That's facts, not just opinion. He got things done, and he had to do it the old-fashioned way, himself, in a lot of times. So we look at Southern. I went back and looked at an article. They said they were investing more in baseball facilities. They've got now. Coach Cato was able to see his hard work pay off. They have a field complex right behind outfield. They got that now. They're trying to look for getting a batting cage. So it's not like, and not to disrespect what Bethune-Cookman and FAMU has done, they have done it in the MEAC and now in the SWAC. Would they love to have more investment in baseball? I think every team in the conference would say yes, panel. And so when you are a coach in one of those type of situations, I think it's just a little bit more pressure based on what that baseball program has been and what it has accomplished. So back with Coach Banks and the staff, they're going to be the ultimate decision makers of Southern baseball. Now, you said Omar had a 4-year extension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, but let's see if both of those guys can bounce back with the programs. How about that?
Unfortunately, Carlos, ghosts can't play.
Yeah, but I think even with baseball, though, Carlos, I think it's got to start with grassroots. You know, we got to help. We got to help rebuild baseball from the grassroots. We got to go back to the little league and that kind of thing to get more of us involved in baseball, so that they're more right so that we'll have more choices to choose from. You know, and even when you look at the Major League Baseball, our percentages of black athletes is down. Even in Major League Baseball, right. So it's got to start at the grassroots to give us more opportunities to go out and recruit, and then at the same time, institutional wise, you got to make the investment. You got to make the investment, man. You got to think about it now. The NC2A has allowed you to add more scholarships to baseball. How many of our programs are going to do that? How many of our programs?
It's hard to make the investment because it's not a revenue generating sport.
Right.
And so it becomes difficult. It be? You got to find the money somewhere from somewhere else in order to try to make it happen.
It's very difficult.
Can it be?
It's very difficult.
I don't think so, Carlos. I mean, it is what it is on that one.
So we just give up on it?
As you look to tier your sports, you know, you as an AD have to decide where the priorities lie. You know, if you have a sport with a history of success, you know, that's a non-revenue sport, you might move that sport from a tier 2 to a tier 1, meaning that you're going to allocate more resources in that direction. But if you have a sport that historically is a non-revenue sport that hasn't done well, you know, then it makes it difficult to pour money into that sport because there's no quote unquote recent history there. You know, so you can't really imagine or see the return on the investment. So you're almost like you're flying blind. So, you know, a lot of these schools, they probably have moved baseball from a tier 2 into the tier 1, you know, and so they're allocating a few more dollars, you know, in that direction based off of recent history because they've been successful. You know, but how much is enough?
Well, I want to make a
never enough.
I'll make
you got that right.
You've talked about Coach Kador. What did Coach Kador do so well besides winning championships?
He had relationships.
Right, with the legislature. He had that kind of a relationship where he could talk to those movers and shakers at the state level. Our former coach, God rest his soul, Willie Rapp McGowan. Willie Rapp McGowan got the Willie Rapp McGowan Stadium. He lobbied. He walked the halls of the Senate and the House to get a stadium for Alcorn State University. That was a huge difference. You don't have our coaches do that. I don't think they're going to be asked to do that. They shouldn't do that. But back then, that's what made Kador in part as good as he was. He was able to make those relationships to get the field house and whatever other improvements that he made. Now, is baseball going to be in that tier 1? I think it's going to be very difficult. We're not charging for our games. How many schools are charging for home games?
Oh, Southern does.
Southern does, but I'm just saying it's
Jackson
more.
State does too.
Wait
Yeah,
a
but it's
minute.
not a lot of schools
Wait
that
a
do.
minute.
Not a lot of
They
schools that
They
do.
get into the game free, is what you saying, Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do it at Alabama A&M.
Oh,
Alcorn. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't charge for baseball or softball.
Yep.
No.
So we can start right there. You got 11.7 scholarships, even though you're eligible for 20 more according to the new
3 minutes left, folks.
Yep.
According to the new formula, you can improve your roster, you can increase scholarships, but where's that money gonna come from for that?
That's it.
LSU can do it, Ole Miss can do it, the SEC schools can do it, and the big Power 3, 2.5, whatever it is, most of them can do it, but most of us cannot. So we can start there.
It seems like the first artist start charging. I'm sorry. It's and it's a nice price.
But a lot of times, Carlos said, "What's the orange ain't worth the squeeze, the juice ain't worth the squeeze." Is that how they say it? Whatever it is,
getting it free.
I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And hope you get a crowd.
Yep.
Well, that's why when I said when you have a legacy at a program, you expect to do more, and you should do more. Well, we're out of time, folks. That one stunned me, and I'm never a loss of words. But I thought everybody was charging a little something.
No.
$2, $3, $5, and show you the man I am. I could get in free, but I pay. I pay for basketball and I pay for baseball. Why should any school not charge for any college game? It's simply stupid.
Right. Well, they don't do it for volleyball or any of that, man. Not at A&M.
Wow. I'm going to have to quickly. When is the SWAC meetings coming up?
Your day for football is in July, right?
No, I'm talking about the coaches and administrators and athletic directors.
Get in there.
I want to get into that meeting. Somebody, please, Dr. McClellan, can I get into that meeting? I promise to be quiet.
That's not the conference's decision. It's individual school's choice. When we opened up the baseball stadium, Brad said, "Man, we're gonna start charging. We're gonna charge $5 to get in." When that discussion came up, it was quickly tabled, and we've never charged to get in our baseball stadium.
And he won. He won. That's the difference. Yeah. Well, appreciate everybody for tuning in. I gotta get my Crystal Light to drink on this one. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. John Grant will join the CEO of the Celebration Bowl. Until then, peace and God bless. Where's my Crystal Light? I got to have it.